All right, so let's get into our recipe now. So now that we know the details on pressure canning, it takes about 1 pound of green beans per pint. And we've already prepped our pints. They're in our canner here. We just need to get going with our water. Okay, so we're actually going to fill the jars. We have pre-cut our raw green beans and we've broken them into the jars here. Now we just need to add some boiling hot liquid, which is just water in our case. Okay, so we have our pint jar of raw green beans. So of course this is a raw pack, and we are going to add our boiling hot water. It's called a raw pack because we haven't cooked the vegetable ingredients. We've only used hot water. You can pre-boil and cook the green beans if you want to. For purposes of demonstration really is the reason why we chose the raw pack, and our recipe allows it. Okay. And it's a good idea to use just a dull knife or a plastic knife to get out the air bubbles. Just kind of move the contents of the food around. And we want to leave an inch of headspace. Headspace is important for the seal, and it's 1 inch typically for low acid foods. Okay. All right, so this is our last pint jar. Okay, so we've just finished adding our boiling water to the contents of our jar. So we have raw green beans. They have not been cooked yet, and this is called a raw pack. We've added the boiling hot water. Now we're just going to center our 2-piece lid on top and finish by tightening the bands. Now when we do this, it's just fingertip tight. You don't need to buy a special mechanism or apparatus to check the tightening of your lid. You use your ring finger and your thumb because it's kind of the weakest combination in your hand, and just tighten until it's as tight as you can get it with that combination. You want to use those two because it's really important to allow some air to be able to release for the seal. Okay, so we have about 9 pints of green beans with our 2-piece lids on the jars ready to be canned. Okay, now we want to make sure that we had about, and we've pre-prepped this, about 2 to 3 inches of water in the bottom of the canner. Now in the case of pressure canners, you don't want your jars to be covered with water. That's with water bath canning. In this case, actually the manufacturer recommends that you fill to the bottom line within the inside of this canner, which is about 3 quarts of water, 2 to 3 inches. All right, and so we're going to vent the canner and actually place the top on it first. We talked about venting a little bit earlier. Okay, so I have matched up the V's to make sure that I know where the lid goes. This one is a little bit hard to put on, just matching it up. But now we're ready to vent the canner. Okay, so we're actually going to close the canner so that the handles are above one another. Okay, so it's locked into place. And I have turned my burner up to high, and we are going to wait to see the steam and pressure release through the vent, which is called venting process. We're going to start the clock when we see a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes, and then we will continue with the pressure process. But we need to wait for this for the steam environment, the water to boil within, and see that the steam is coming out consistently before we can proceed. Okay, so we are now done processing our green beans product. Okay, so we actually have turned off the burner entirely, and we have allowed it to get down to 0 psi, so there's no pressure. And in this case, we can remove the lid. I'm not going to do it right now, but we can remove the lid, and we want to remove it pointing it away from us so that the steam moves away. And you let the jars sit in the canner for 5 minutes when you're done processing. So with the lid off, they're sitting there for about 5 minutes. You use the lifter to remove them. You remove the jars from the canner and set them on a thicker towel. So I would probably use maybe 2 of these, okay, thickness-wise, or a couple hand towels will be just fine. And even a wooden cutting board would be okay too. So as you store the food product, once it's sealed and everything, it's the next morning, you want to let them sit for about 12 to 24 hours. You actually want to remove the bands. And as you can see on this unit here, this one we had done last year, it is stored without the band. And that's because you prevent rust, and it actually can harbor food product that maybe had spilled out. So it's more sanitary to store them without the bands. So you can gently wash the lid and the threads if there's anything that's spilt. You rinse and dry, and you can label the jars. I usually like to put date and contents, maybe July 2016 green beans, no salt maybe, or something of that nature. You store the jars in a cool, dark place, and you store unsealed jars in the refrigerator if they didn't do so well. Thank you for joining us so much. Again, this is brought to you by NDSU Extension in Burleigh County, North Dakota. My name is Chandra. Please check out and search our other videos where we did strawberry jam as well as chili pineapple salsa. Thanks for joining us.